Welcome to Hard Script.
The 10th time she said it. She did not even look up from her phone. I'm not feeling it today. Emily said it calmly, almost kindly, like she was declining dessert. We were in the kitchen. The dishwasher was humming. Her laptop was open on the island. Some rough cut paused mid-frame. A man's laugh was frozen on the screen. I stood there with 2 glasses of wine in my hands. As a risk manager for an insurance firm, I spend my days calculating probabilities, patterns, exposure. I know when something shifts. I know when numbers stop making sense. 10, not tonight, responses in a row is not a coincidence. It is a trend line. I set her glass down anyway. She didn't touch it. She was typing, smiling at something that wasn't in the room with me. Earlier that evening, her phone had lit up while she was in the shower. A name flashed across the screen. Ryan. I knew the name. Ryan Cole. Her ex-boyfriend. The one she once described as brilliant but impossible. The one who now owned a small video production studio downtown and posted moody behind-the-scenes clips like he was still 25. A week ago, she told me they had reconnected. Just to close the loop, she had said. Coffee. That's it. I didn't argue. I asked one question. She answered without blinking. Tonight. She said she had a late edit session. Client deadline. I might be home after midnight. I nodded. Later, while brushing my teeth, I opened Instagram. Ryan's story was live. A dimly lit studio. Brick walls. A neon sign in the background. I knew that neon sign. I had helped Emily brainstorm that set design months ago. The next slide was a quick pan across a couch. 2 wine glasses on a low table. One with lipstick on the rim. I did not confront her. I turned off my phone, walked back into the bedroom, and lay down on my side of the bed. That was the moment I stopped trying. The next morning, Emily moved around the apartment like nothing had shifted. She hummed while making coffee. She kissed my cheek on her way to the door. Her perfume lingered in the hallway after she left. I stayed at the kitchen table longer than usual, laptop open but untouched. At work, I reviewed a portfolio flagged for low visibility risk. That phrase stayed with me. Low visibility did not mean low exposure. It meant the damage was just harder to see. Around lunch, my phone buzzed. A notification from Ryan Cole's studio account. He had posted a behind-the-scenes reel from a late creative session. The caption thanked a brilliant mind for helping shape the narrative. The camera panned across the same brick wall, the same neon sign. Then it stopped for half a second on a woman sitting cross-legged on the couch, back to the lens, laughing at something off-screen. I recognized the sweater. I had bought it for Emily last winter. I did not screenshot it. I did not react. I closed the app and went back to my spreadsheet. That evening, she came home with takeout and a story about a demanding client. She described revisions, lighting changes, a stubborn editor. She did not mention Ryan. She did not need to. Her phone vibrated twice during dinner. She flipped it face down without looking at me. Later, while she showered, it lit up again on the bathroom counter. His name. No emojis. Just Ryan. I watched it ring out. When she came back into the bedroom, she slipped under the covers and said she was exhausted. She turned her back to me before I could respond. I did not reach for her. Instead, I reached for my phone in the dark and opened our shared calendar. The weekend getaway to Napa that I had planned for months was still there, color-coded, confirmed, prepaid. I hovered over it for a long moment. Then I deleted it. She did not notice. Not yet. By the 3rd week of their coffee to close the loop, the pattern had sharpened. Emily's refusals at home lined up perfectly with Ryan's bursts of late-night creative energy online. When she said she had a brainstorm session, his studio account posted blurred shots of dim lighting and wine glasses. When she told me she was drained, he uploaded a clip captioned, "Nothing like old chemistry." I stopped reacting to any of it. One evening, she left her laptop open on the dining table while she took a call on the balcony. I was not looking for anything. I was pouring myself water when a notification slid across her screen. Ryan, last night was worth the wait. The message disappeared before I could read more, but it did not need context. It was not the first message from him that week. It was just the first one that landed in front of me. From the balcony, her voice softened in a way I had not heard in months. She laughed quietly. She said she would see him soon. I sat down in my usual chair and opened my own laptop instead. As a risk manager, I do not chase rumors. I follow data. I checked our joint credit card statements. There were small charges from a wine bar downtown. A boutique hotel lounge I knew she never mentioned. 2 charges spaced a few days apart. Then a third. The third was the largest. The next morning, she told me she might have to stay out late again. She said it casually, almost apologetically, as if I were a colleague who needed to be informed. I nodded and asked if she wanted me to keep dinner warm. She said not to wait up. That night, Ryan's story showed a slow pan across his studio apartment. The camera lingered on the edge of his bed. A woman's hand brushed into the frame and pulled the lens away with a laugh. I recognized the ring. It was the one I had placed on her finger. I did not call her. I turned off my phone and began adjusting the variables. I did not confront her after that. I recalibrated. The following morning, I removed the Napa reservation from my inbox entirely and submitted the refund request. The confirmation email arrived before Emily woke up. I archived it without comment. At work, I requested a meeting with our legal department. Not about her. About asset restructuring. I framed it as long-term planning. I asked precise questions about timelines, filings, quiet separations. The attorney spoke in careful language. I listened and took notes. That evening, Emily floated through the apartment in a loose shirt that was not hers. She said it belonged to the studio wardrobe. She said they had wrapped late again. She said Ryan was pushing her creatively in ways she had missed. She did not realize she had said his name out loud. I kept my tone even and asked if she wanted Thai or sushi. She chose Thai. I ordered 1 portion instead of 2. During dinner, she scrolled through her phone, smiling at something she did not show me. I discussed a new client at work, neutral, factual. She nodded without absorbing a word. Later, when she said she was too tired for anything physical, I simply said that was fine and turned back to my book. The next morning, I stopped texting her first. No midday check-ins. No quick, how's your day, messages. When she sent a short update about a pitch meeting, I responded with a single sentence. I removed our anniversary reminder from my calendar. I shifted half of my direct deposit into a separate account under my name only. It was legal. It was clean. It was quiet. By the 5th day, she began watching me. She asked if I was stressed. She asked if work was overwhelming. She said I seemed distant. I told her everything was stable. That evening, as she stood in the doorway of the living room, she asked softly if we were good. I did not hesitate. I told her we were neutral. She blinked, as if she did not recognize the word. For the first time in weeks, she looked uncertain. After I said we were neutral, something shifted in the apartment. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a thin crack in the air. Emily began hovering in small ways. She lingered in the kitchen when I was there. She asked about my meetings. She offered to watch a show together, something we had abandoned months ago. I agreed once, sat beside her, and kept my attention on the screen instead of her. Her phone still lit up with Ryan's name. She started taking those calls in the hallway instead of the balcony. I did not ask where she was going when she dressed up in the evening. I did not comment on the new black dress. I simply told her to drive safe. At work, I finalized the paperwork. The attorney emailed me the draft petition. Clean language. Irreconcilable differences. No accusations. No exhibits attached. I read every line twice and approved it. That same afternoon, Ryan posted another story. This time there was no subtlety. A blurred selfie in a mirror, his arm around a woman whose face was half hidden by her hair. The caption read, "Some stories deserve a second take." He thought it was clever. What he did not know was that mutual friends followed him. People from Emily's agency. One of her junior producers commented with a surprised emoji. Another asked if he was collaborating with Emily again. The story stayed up long enough for the comments to multiply before he deleted it. That evening, Emily came home earlier than usual. She moved through the apartment with tight shoulders, her phone clutched in her hand. She asked if I had seen anything online. I told her I had been busy. She watched me for a long moment, searching for something. Anger, jealousy, a reaction she could manage. I gave her none. 2 days later, I had her served at her office. I did not do it publicly. I did not stage a scene. The documents arrived in a plain envelope at reception. When she walked through the door that evening, she was pale. For the first time since this began, she was not composed. She stood just inside the doorway, still holding her bag, the envelope folded in her hand like it might dissolve if she squeezed it hard enough. Her voice was steady at first. She said she had been embarrassed in front of her team. She said reception had called her down like it was a delivery. She said people had seen the word petition through the thin paper. I listened from the dining table, where I had been reviewing a report. She asked why I had not talked to her first. I told her we had been neutral. The word landed differently this time. She paced the living room, trying to control the narrative. She said this was extreme. She said I was overreacting. She said nothing had happened that justified this. Her phone buzzed in her hand. She glanced at it, hesitated, then declined the call. I recognized the name from across the room. Ryan called again. She walked into the bedroom to answer. Her voice was low, urgent. She said it was complicated now. She said she had not expected me to move like this. She asked him what he thought she should do. When she came back out, the composure she had worn for weeks was thinning. The next day, one of her co-workers, a producer named Melissa who had once come to our place for dinner, sent me a brief message. She did not accuse. She did not pry. She simply said she was sorry things had become public at the office and that people were talking. Ryan's deleted story had not gone unnoticed. By the end of the week, Emily stopped dressing up for late edit sessions. She stayed home more. She watched me move through the apartment like a tenant. One evening, she sat across from me and asked if there was someone else. I told her there was not. She asked if this was revenge. I told her it was alignment. For the first time, she did not have a response ready. After that conversation, the apartment felt smaller. Emily began trying to re-enter spaces she had abandoned. She cooked dinner one evening without announcing it. She asked if I wanted to review a pitch deck with her like I used to. She mentioned Napa casually, as if the trip were still ahead of us. I told her the reservation had been canceled. She stared at me, confused, then checked her phone as if the confirmation might still exist somewhere in the cloud. That same night, I heard her in the bedroom, voice tight, speaking to Ryan again. She told him the divorce papers were real. She asked if he had meant what he implied online. There was a pause long enough for me to imagine his answer. When she walked back into the living room, her expression had shifted. Not devastated, not dramatic, just unsettled. Over the next few days, his name stopped lighting up her screen as often. When it did, she did not rush to answer. Once, I watched her let the call go to voicemail while she stood at the kitchen sink, staring at nothing. Later, I overheard part of a conversation. She asked him if he saw a future in this. She said she had already risked everything. She said she needed clarity. The response on the other end must have been measured. The following evening, she told me Ryan was overwhelmed by the speed of events. She said he had not expected things to escalate. She said he needed space. I nodded as if she were describing a weather report. At work, my attorney informed me the process would move forward smoothly and less contested. I told him to proceed. Emily started sleeping closer to the edge of the bed. Not turned away this time, but watching me in the dark as if waiting for a cue. I did not give her one. For weeks, she had controlled the distance between us. Now she was measuring it. The call that ended it between them did not happen in our apartment. It happened in her car. She thought I did not know, but I had seen the notification on the shared vehicle app when she left the garage and parked 3 blocks away. She stayed there longer than necessary. When she came back upstairs, her eyes were red, but she was not crying anymore. She sat down across from me at the dining table, the same place where I had opened the divorce draft weeks earlier. She said Ryan did not want complications. She said he had not signed up for lawyers and paperwork. She said he thought it had all moved too fast. She tried to say it casually, as if she were repeating his words without attaching to them. I closed my laptop and gave her my full attention for the first time in days. She asked if we could pause the divorce. She said we owed it to ourselves to try. She said she had been confused, that reconnecting with him had stirred up unfinished emotions. She described it as nostalgia that went too far. She did not deny what had happened. She said it only happened once, then corrected herself and said it did not matter how many times. I did not ask for details. She moved her chair closer to mine and said she had not realized how far I had already stepped back until she tried to reach for me and felt nothing there. Her voice was softer than I had heard in months. Not performative, not defensive, just stripped down. I told her the paperwork was already filed. She asked if there was anything left to salvage. I held her gaze and said salvage implies something broken beyond repair. The word hung between us. For the first time since this started, she was not managing optics. She was asking. Over the next several days, the energy in the apartment changed again, but this time it did not feel tense. It felt exposed. Emily stopped pretending her phone was just a tool. She left it face up on the counter. Ryan's name no longer appeared. His studio account went quiet for a while, then resumed with generic client work, no cryptic captions, no blurred silhouettes. At her agency, the whispers had not fully faded. She told me one of the senior partners had asked if everything was stable at home. She said it in a low voice, standing by the window, as if admitting it made it more real. For the first time, she began referencing small things I had done over the years. She mentioned how I had stayed up with her before a major pitch. She brought up how I had negotiated the lease when she wanted a larger studio space. She talked about the Napa trip she had brushed off, now describing the winery I had chosen as if she had only just looked it up. These were not dramatic speeches. They surfaced in fragments, usually late in the evening when the apartment was quiet. She started initiating conversations about therapy, about rebuilding trust, about transparency with devices and schedules. She offered passwords without being asked. I listened without interrupting. One afternoon, as I reviewed documents from my attorney, she sat across from me and said she had mistaken attention for connection. She said she had enjoyed being desired without realizing she had already been valued. There was no anger in her tone now, just clarity that arrived too late. She asked again if I would consider withdrawing the petition. I told her the process could be paused, but not erased. I said if anything continued between us, it would not resemble what we had before. She did not argue. She nodded, slowly, as if understanding that the version of me who had absorbed 10 quiet rejections was no longer at the table. The final conversation did not happen during a fight. It happened on an ordinary evening, with the city humming outside and the dishwasher running in the background, the same sound that had filled the kitchen the night. She said she was not in the mood for the 10th time. Emily sat across from me, without her phone in reach. She had grown quieter over the past weeks, more deliberate with her words. She told me she had ended all contact with Ryan. She said she understood now that he had been drawn to the chase, not the responsibility. She admitted that once the divorce papers were real, his tone had changed. She did not insult him. She did not defend him. She simply described what happened. Then she looked at me and said she knew I could walk away cleanly. She said I had every reason to. She said if I chose to leave, she would not fight it. There was no performance in her voice. No panic. I told her I had not disappeared. I had stopped showing up where I was not respected. She absorbed that without flinching. I explained that if anything continued between us, it would be built differently. No blurred boundaries. No nostalgia disguised as closure. Total transparency. Shared counseling. Separate accounts. Clear consequences if those lines were crossed again. I did not raise my voice. I did not list her mistakes. I did not mention the ring in that video. I told her the petition would be paused, not withdrawn. That trust would not be assumed. It would be earned. She nodded and said she understood. For the first time in a long time, she reached for my hand without asking for reassurance. I let her hold it, but I did not tighten my grip. The man who had once tried 10 times and been turned away was gone. If we were going to continue, it would be on terms defined by clarity, not convenience. And this time, I was the one setting them.